As usual, before we start today's program, let us take a moment to pay our homage to the Lord Buddha, the perfect one, the most compassionate one, by chanting the Namaskar. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. To observe the 5 precepts, first I wanted to say thank you to whoever the person that has filled this water cup with hot water. It will help my voice, and I feel this person also knows that sometimes I drink a lot in the sermon, so he made it extra full, so it can't be more fuller than that. Which shows me that this person must have thought very much about what he's doing. So that's really good. Okay, so how are you? Did you have a good week? That's good. Yeah, I also had a good week. I can't think of anything special that has happened, but it's funny because I was kind of a person who, if I would have to live and do the same things over and over again, like living in the same place, meeting the same people, and doing the same things every week, it would become very boring for me. Just a few years ago, I used to travel around the world, and I would see new people every day, new places every day, new countries every few weeks at least. And I really loved that. And the thought of staying in one place and meeting the same people every day would have been quite hard to swallow. Maybe because it would simply be boring for me, or as well, maybe sometimes the people we live with start to annoy you, or I don't know, some reasons. And so I felt kind of free. When I could always go to the next place whenever I wanted. So I never had to stay anywhere if I started to have a problem with it. So that was my idea of freedom at that time. Now I don't feel that it is a problem anymore to stay in the same place and do the same things again and again. Because I guess I learned how to always see the opportunity in every situation, right? Because events are always there, but what what you can learn from it is something you can always decide, or you can always... it depends on how you look at the situation. I mean, every situation that happens in your life, there's always a lot to learn, because you are the one who is experiencing it, not the Buddha. I guess the Buddha wouldn't have to learn anything about it anymore. But we have still a lot to learn about why things happen to us, why we feel the way we feel when they happen to us. And when you take a moment to look at it from this point of view, when you take a moment to look at it from this point of view, then there's no waste of time, isn't it? Actually, when we feel that something is a waste of time, then that's our judgment, isn't it? It's our judgment of that situation. So the problem is not the waste of time, the problem is you feel it's a waste of time. If you were able to enjoy, if you know the art of enjoying, or if you learn the art of enjoying, nothing will become a waste of time. Or if at least you can see that it doesn't matter what the events are in our lives. The events are, of course, we want to be happy, we want to have good events. We want to make sure that when we go out with our family and we want to have a good Sunday, we go to a good restaurant, okay? I understand that. We want to have people who love us. I understand that also. And we want to have a fulfilling family life and relationship and these kind of things. But if you get too stuck or hung up with how these things really are, then that is not what we are meant to do, I think, isn't it? I don't know, once my teacher gave this formula, which I sometimes really like to apply. I mean, I apply it all the time, but I found it a really smart way to understand things. And it simply means event times response equal to outcome. So how do we understand that? Well, something that we always can control in our lives is our response to every situation. Whether we accept it with dignity or whether we protest, whether we learn from it or whether we don't learn from it, whether we learn something about ourselves, maybe about the other person. And ultimately, whether we can grow from that. I can tell you that from my humble efforts of trying to change myself over the last few years, which is far from finished, of course, but it doesn't matter, I can see that I can at least have a sort of a good understanding that real lasting improvements in our life happen only in one way alone, and that is by buying a bigger house or changing our job. No, of course not. I mean, these are things you can do, and you have all the rights in the world to do these things. So I would never ask you to stop doing them. Yes, change your job, change your house. That's okay. You might deserve it, because if you worked hard and if you can afford it, and if there's a good reason why you need that, why not? But I mean, life is not about acquiring these things at the end of the day, right? I think you would agree with me. So life is about who we become in our hearts and how we deal with the events when they bother us today, and think about the things which bother you these days. What people do, what can people do to trigger you? How can people hurt you? Because it's not about what they do, it's about how you can be hurt. That teaches you a lot about yourself. And first of all, that is really important. Like, there are people, many of us actually, I would say everyone, unless we are, most of us, we need to have people around us, or we need to have our family around us, maybe sometimes, I don't know. Or better to say, think about the things which upset you, which hurt you. What are the things other people can do, even in your family or in your school? I mean, when I went to school and when people used to talk behind other people's backside, like that is typically what happens in a school as well. I think it happens as well for adults. But I know how much the kids who was victim of this situation, how much they suffered. And some of these kids, which I knew, they never really recovered from this for most of their lives, at least until recently when I saw them the last time. It has been a few years. So it's always our response. And whenever people can do something which can make us upset, then that's a weakness we have at this moment, and that's fine. That's totally okay, isn't it? We all have a lot of weaknesses, but first we need to recognize them. And after that, we can think about how we should react. How we should choose our response, because this is what will determine everything in the future. So what others have done to us has already happened, isn't it? So the moment you hear someone talking, you have already heard him. You can't stop that. But our response will determine what we are going to affect in the future and what we are going to attract in the future, as well as how we're going to be able to deal with it. Another example I gave a few weeks ago, I talked about this example of when a family meets for holiday, for a festivity like Vesak or Christmas, how just because of the expectation of everyone wanting to be in harmony with each other, sometimes the whole festival becomes a big mess. Just because we all want to be in harmony. But just because we want to be in harmony, will that make things sometimes easier? Sometimes it's our wanting for harmony which makes us upset when things are not in harmony. We expect a perfect family life. We expect a perfect daughter, perfect husband, perfect wife, perfect mother, perfect father, isn't it? And then these are the things which can create lots of difficulties. As in, we are not able to accept people as they are, somehow. And we are living with that pain. Sometimes that pain becomes visible to others as well. Unspoken accusations are being felt by other people. Unspoken words. Sometimes it is simply the plates in the kitchen which get stacked up a bit too noisy than usual, or the famous door gets closed too strongly, and then you know something is wrong. But no, nothing is being talked about. I really don't know what I'm talking about today. I will just see where I'm going, but I'm really trying my best to express my feelings. So anyways, so the formula I should understand. What is to affect this outcome, which means happiness in our lives, or where we are going in our lives, we have two choices. Either we can change E, which is the events in our lives, the people in our lives, and the places we go to, clothes that we wear, and the things we do, but we fail to see. So for example, there's a person. I met a person once who however the relationship he or she is trying to get into, it's never lasting long. Because and you know, it's like, I don't know, after a year or something, always happens. So where do you think the problem is in this situation? Is it the partner? Most likely not. Of course, when I would talk to of course, what I don't want to say, what good is there in starting to blame ourselves? I have these situations. I still recognize these things within myself. See, the higher we expect things from others, the more we expect of ourselves as well, typically. So, a person who expects a lot from other people is also a person who expects a lot from himself. So that means a lack of love is always a lack of love. I can say that there are moments in my life where I feel a lack of love, means for myself or for others. So I'm too hard with myself, or I am too hard with others. Typically these things are always connected, because how you treat others is how you treat yourself, and the other way around. So only a person who can fully and truly acknowledge himself and be okay with his own flaws and weaknesses, and also be truly proud in a good way, proud in an unselfish way, but proud in a confident way about his strengths. Right? Only a person who can do that can allow others to be strong as well. So if I can't see the goodness within myself, for example, and the things that I am good in, will I be able to accept the goodness in others when others are good? Somehow I won't be able to do that, because I don't feel that, because then I would feel that this world is so unfair. Why can others be good but I can't? So then it's really hard to rejoice in other people's goodness. So sometimes we are very, very hard on ourselves because of the things we have done, because of how we should be, because of what we expect of ourselves, especially in today's time. I don't know, it's all about being perfect in the sense of improving ourselves. Recently, I'm also learning languages, and the people who are, and people I'm learning from, it's just in the internet, but there are people who are very dedicated in teaching their languages. Like, for example, I'm learning French and Italian, and this teacher who's teaching French, he knows all about optimizing his life. So he's a very, I guess he can use his time very efficiently, right? So for example, you wake up in the morning at 5, before you have your breakfast, you go for a run, or you maybe spend 1 hour reading some kind of self-development book, or you listen to some podcast about languages, and then you have your breakfast, and while you're going to work, you're going to listen to this and that, so using every minute. So this is a person like that. So that's really, really good. But these days, when people go to the gym, people study, want to have a higher education, and it's about the way you look, as in trying to change your body, upgrading your body, upgrading your credentials. So I think we are, in society, we are all trapped in this kind of race, somehow, more or less. But I think the race is going on, and it's racing ever faster. And I also was part of that race. I remember just a few years ago, I really thought that for becoming happy, I have to cross a desert, for example, and I have to travel around the world for 1 whole year by bicycle, which is, crossing a desert in the summer is really not such a... I thought I had to cross a desert to become happy in the summer, where I could have easily lost my life. As well as people think that they should do bungee jumping to become happy, or maybe, what else? Going to an adventure park. I don't know whether these things exist in Sri Lanka the way they do in Germany. I used to go to adventure parks where they have these things called free fall. So they boost you up into the tower, under the sky, and then you fall. I mean, you're wearing a belt, so that you're fixed to a chair, to a seat, and up and down. So I thought I had, and it was, I had to pay money for these things. I mean, at the entry to this adventure parks, or this what we call leisure parks, is not a cheap one. How much do you spend there? Maybe $30, 30 euros was what you spend. So in rupees it is 30 times 300, so 9,000 rupees. 9,000 euro for what at the end of the day? But I thought, that's what I have to do. So anyways, I feel that there was a weight of having to be someone. I mean, I went climbing because I thought climbing is something makes you a cool person, or like a interesting person, makes you a complete person, or going to the gym, or maybe cycling around the world. So people talk a lot about this self-optimization, and even when we are coming to Dhamma, of course we also have an image of who we want to be, somehow, sometimes, right? What does the Buddha say? You should also become a person. How? You should not be angry, you should not be unkind to others, you should not have desires. All these things the Buddha said. Actually, he didn't say that in this way. Because if he said that, now what happens with us? Now we have another person we want to be in the future. So that means, what about a desire? What about a jealous moment? What about an angry moment? That's not good. Should not happen. So then that's not freedom as well. Not directly freedom, because we are also living in conflict with ourselves in this way. Think about your last time when you got angry. When you think about it now, sometimes you might be ashamed. So did the Buddha ask you to be ashamed? I don't think so. But it happens. Because we want to be someone, and we think we are not. Just like a person who looks into the mirror and he sees someone who he doesn't want to be as well. Is it because he's not who he should be, or is it because he wants to be someone else? Yeah, because he wants to be someone. Actually, what he's looking at is perfectly good, perfectly alright, perfectly beautiful. That's why the Buddha would be the one who would be able to say more than anyone else that you are all beautiful, just the way you are. You don't have to change anything. He could even feel the same happiness, the same good about. I mean, he can accept the most selfish person just the same way then he could accept his most progressed arahant. He could accept them both equally. It's funny because I thought I was a very moral person back in the time when I was in my lay life, before I came to understand the Dhamma. So I wanted to be a good person to others at that time. So one thing I really didn't like was when people were not good to others. Isn't that an irony? For example, one thing I saw, I wanted to be a good person for the environment. And the environment is something very important in my culture. I'm not saying it's not here. I believe it's probably equally important here or more, I don't know. But in the sense that people always talk about this climate change all day long in Germany. I think they still do. If they're not talking about football, then everything else becomes secondary. But now Germany has apparently been, they lost, so I guess, suddenly. It's always the time, I don't know, so politicians, when they want to make a law which is not favorable, which people don't like to get, sometimes we have to take decisions nobody likes, right? But they always do that at the time when everyone watches football. Nobody notices. Only they notice a few weeks later, then law has already been passed. No one can do anything about it anymore. So anyways, environment. So I used to care a lot about the environment because that's what I've been taught, and it was good. So if I see other people throwing, for example, other people throwing rubbish on the ground, I wouldn't like that, and I would pick it up. And in the back of my mind, I would feel somehow good that I picked it up. I would feel that this is how people should be. Why are they not like that? Right? So, do you also sometimes feel like that? That in this way or another, who are you? Are you the one who throws the litter to the ground, or are you the one who picks it up and wishes others should also be like you, or maybe something even else? I mean, I don't know, you can decide yourself. It's good to pick up the litter, I don't say that, it's wrong, so it's good. But I used to be one who picks up the litter and feels that why are others not doing that? And when I was traveling around the world, I came to China with my bicycle. And when I came to China, first I spent time in the western part of China, where just basically there's nothing, just a few deserts and some minority people, and basically we just cross the desert and we see one village a day, 100 kilometers every day, and nothing happens. But when the desert was over, after a month, 2,000 kilometers of nothingness, we started to see people, big cities. In China, every city you cross is like, has 1 million inhabitants, like, I don't know, half of Colombo. But it's just a city like any other. So, however, when I came there, something happened. I saw, when I met people, I remember, I was really interested to drink tea with them, because that's what you should do in China, apparently. And people used to always ask me about German cars. Oh, how are these German cars? And they asked me about brands. And I was never a car person. I don't have any affiliation with cars whatsoever. But people had a lot of interest in German cars. Because Chinese people, what I learned was the generation above the ones. I mean, I met people maybe in the middle of their middle-aged people, right? So 30, 40 years. People who had good education, people who had started to earn a good amount of money now. But their parents, how were their parents' lives? Their parents were very simple people. They had lived a different life. Maybe they were never much rich. But they knew the value of education. So they taught the value of education to their kids. Kids became educated, and wealthy, and the kids were starting to dream of Volkswagen, that's BMW and these things. So this was the thing that people were interested in. I was so shocked. I thought, oh, we had these times in Germany when people were interested in Volkswagen and BMW, but cars, come on, cars? What's the point of cars? It's just this. Is that what life should be about? Cars? And however, I used to try to drive around with my bicycle and these SUVs, I don't know whether you've ever heard of this word SUV, these are just basically even bigger cars. For what purpose, I don't know, but people drive them around and they look very impressive when you have one. And I think you are a big person in society when you can afford a SUV. So I don't have anything against whatever car you're driving. Please continue to do that. It's totally fine. But this is just to explain my mindset at that time. So I felt, because I was so important. I mean, I drove by bicycle around the world. I could have also taken a car, but it would not have been ecologically friendly, right? It would have polluted the environment. So I didn't want to do that. But when I saw that all of these Chinese people, they are all driving cars and they are dreaming of even bigger cars, then I thought, okay, this climate change thing is going to be a failure, very much. Some 50, 60, 70, 80 million Germans dreaming about a climate sustainable world, and 1 billion people, I don't know, now I'm judging as well. This was just the people I met, but my feeling was that people in the other part of the world, they don't care about climate change. All they want to do is drive a good car. And I can understand that because they have grown up in very rather poor conditions, very basic conditions. I have not grown up in poor conditions. I have grown up in very well conditions. Well means middle class of German society, right? So my parents are academics. They have studied, and I have also studied, but that was not very special. But yeah, that's why I used to judge a lot people who drive these cars and so on. So why I'm talking about this is because all these things happen in our mind because we have these ideas of perfection, right? This is how the world should be. The world should be, people should be like that. And even when we want to be a moral person, even when we want to be good, I mean, what is the characteristic of a good person? Or what is the character? Actually, there are no good or bad person, because we all have these attitudes within us, right? It depends on the situation. Some of these attitudes show. But what is the attitude of, what is let's say, a bad attitude? A bad attitude is why we take the 5 precepts. We take the 5 precepts because we don't take things from others if they're not us, because we respect their property. And how about throwing trash to the ground? Is that a sin or not, according to your understanding? What are you giving to the world in that moment? I mean, do you appreciate a clean street? Yes, right? So if you're doing something to make it dirty, then what are you giving in that moment? Are you giving a pleasant mind to others or an unpleasant mind to others? Maybe it's not a big deal compared to other things you could do. Of course, it's a small thing. in some sense. But however, it's not a good thing to do. So that would be a bad attitude. Sometimes we have these things, isn't it? Sometimes because we are just maybe stressed, or we have too much on our head, and we behave in this way. So that's fine. Now, how about a good person's attitude? A good person is someone who believes that the street should be clean and he will pick it up. So it's this model of perfection where we want the world to be clean, or we want to be good, and then we pick up the litter. But for a good person, there's also still good and bad, right? What do you think? Is good and bad real? It seems to be to us. What I mean is that when our mind has this model of being good, or climate change is good, now what happens is there's a certain way the world should be in, and if others are not like that, or if they're doing something against that, then they are wrong. So we can't accept them, we can't love them as well. But the Buddha could do that. So the Buddha, he didn't even have a problem with desire. Can you imagine? If there was a person who was full of desire and aversion and delusion, he wouldn't feel a problem, he wouldn't have a problem with him. That means he could love this person just as much as another aunt. But we can't, isn't it? We can't do that. We can't love ourselves for some of the things we do. For example, we can't love ourselves for some feelings we have, or things we have done in the past. We can't always do that, because we expect ourselves to be in a certain way. But when we expect ourselves to be in a certain way, that means if we are not, if we haven't been, then that will be a problem to us. So when we want to be always kind to others, how do you deal with moments when you're not? When you get angry? And how do you deal with others who are not kind? Because kindness seems to be inherently much more valuable than the opposite. Right? So then, that is what a good person is. A good person suffers from guilt. Sometimes. I used to remember, I used to go to our local church as a kid, and there were some, actually I have to appreciate the fact that their devotion, and very devoted old ladies who always came to the church and prayed the rosary and other prayers. Actually very good. But what I always get hung up on is this idea: I'm so bad, I'm such a sinner, I'm such a sinner. Please rescue me, or something like that. I didn't understand that. I didn't know this I think what can happen to a person who starts to become religious, he starts to... A good thing which happens when you're becoming religious is that you want to be good, that you want to be a better person. But then you have all these desires within you, and you can't stop them. So what happens is, you go to church and you're the best person in the world. And you like the feeling of going to the church, coming to a sermon and doing good. Does that not feel nice? I don't know. Does it feel nice? Otherwise I guess you wouldn't come here, which is perfectly fine. So it's good. It is what motivates us to do anything actually. So the feeling of doing good is what should motivate us to do more good. But what can happen is when we start doing it, that we go back to our other life. So right now you are feeling good and very holy to a certain extent. Cool, look, we are all dressed up in a very good way, which is good because it earns you merits as well. So even wearing your clothes today morning has earned you merits. Because I'm sure you have thought about what you're going to show to the environment with the clothes that you're wearing. And if you're wearing very proper, and like proper means you wouldn't wear the everyday, I don't know, the last t-shirt that 6 years ago you bought it and it has already holes. You wouldn't wear this one today, right? So that means because of the value that the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha and this goodness has, even wearing is earning your merit. So that's really good. But what I wanted to say is that I don't know the lives of this old lady, these old ladies in the church. When I only hear them praying, and I feel their guiltiness. They are speaking out of some sort of guiltiness. That's what I hear, and then I'm thinking what their life must be like, and I feel like it must be something like this. And now I'm just talking about it not to make fun of them at all, but actually just to study their mind. And when I study their mind, I'm studying my mind as well, which is, you want to be good, that's really good, it's really great. And sometimes you are good, but when you're in front of the fridge, are you still good? Or when your husband, again, he hasn't lifted up the toilet seat, or he didn't, again, he eats from the plate and he leaves the plate on the table and he goes to watch TV, and then all the security systems in your brain shut down. So I guess these memories must be there as well. And then I don't know, whatever things that have happened make this guiltiness, right? So, because when situations change, when events change, now suddenly all the badness that is somewhere within us comes up, and we do things and say things sometimes which make us realize that we are just still a very old and normal, average person, a very average sinner, and that we need rescue from some holy person, Jesus, the Buddha, or whoever. Which is good, because actually that's the way you should go. Because any other way will definitely not work, right? So that is the way to go, but still we are only good. And a good person is a person who suffers from so-called, what is this? There's a modern, in our Western societies, we have this epidemic of mental diseases. Mental disease means this, like depression, right, is something that's always increasing. depressing, and there's this mood swing kind of. There are various kind of, I don't know, is it a disease or just symptoms? Like, it's like ups and downs. Have you ever experienced ups and downs in your life? I think this disease is not just common for these people. This is very normal for all of us. Like from heaven to hell and back in a matter of few days or even sometimes hours. So, which means this is the church, and this is when the plate is on the table. Sometimes it might be things like there's a person who's going to the church or to the sermon and secretly he's having an affair. I mean, that is probably even better way to understand how there's a deep desire to be good, but there's an inability to conform to that. In other moments, when the desire strikes, you can't say no, and you know it's wrong. So then this is the conflict a good person carries. Because a good person is still a person, feels that a good person is not a person actually, but that mind feels like a person. And that means as well, there's a wanting for a certain way of being, and there's a value in kindness, and there's a value in climate change. I mean, in saving the world, there's a value in being good. That means that is what the mind wants. This is the image, right? So even an arahant can become an image. As in, can't you have a wanting to be an arahant? So what does it mean to be an arahant? An arahant means Ragakayo, Dveshakayo, Mohakayo. So that could be your model. So now what is the model you want to be? I want to be free from desire. I want to be free from anger. I want to be free from delusion. So this is the model. And if you see someone who's very, very... and then the normal person on the street might be a person that... I mean, I can see this within myself. Once I started to have this view, okay, this is how I should be, suddenly, sometimes even the judging became worse. Because then another person who has desire, he's wrong. He's going the wrong path. So judgment happens. So a good person judges. It's something we can't avoid. Because when you have a model, you will always judge, isn't it? Even if the model is free from desire, you will judge. Because if somebody doesn't, or if you don't, that's not good. This is worse. This is why it's so crucial to understand that at the end of the day, in nature, there is no difference whatsoever intrinsically between anything. There's no intrinsic, I mean, you can't become an arahant. See, you can't become an arahant in the future. As in, see, how we think is, if I ask you in this moment, do you have desire? What would you say? See, that's your problem. You think you have a problem. You say you have a problem which is called desire. Show me your desire. Show me your desire. Where is it? I mean, right now. I don't see desire. I see smiling faces. I don't see vexation. I don't see desire. You will say, yeah, but yesterday when I was in front of the fridge, I felt a desire. Okay. But where's that desire now? Where's the desire now? The desire of when you were standing in front of the fridge, or when you were walking past the pizza restaurant. What is the answer that comes into your mind if I ask you this question? Where is the desire now? Where's the anger that you had? Sometimes you will say, sometimes I'm a really angry person. When my wife, when my partner, or when my colleague does this, I get angry. So I am sometimes I get angry. So that means there's this tendency that you feel like that, most likely, that sometimes you get angry. So that means, don't you feel like the desire, you can't show me your desire right now, right? Do you feel desire? Do you feel right now a desire? The thing is, so do you feel a desire to eat some kind of fried rice dish or something? Now when I say the word, yes. Before I said the word, see, the moment I say, what about dish? That thing comes to your mind, and then the desire sparks. Because then the causes come together, and then that desire happens. But before I said that word, you didn't have it. But don't you feel like, yeah, I didn't feel it, but it's somewhere, where? Somewhere within me. Right? Somewhere within you. See, now you can understand what the Buddha called this Antidrushti or something like that. It's the view of a soul. It is the view of a soul. The view of a soul is not actually, this is what I used to think about the soul. First, when I came into contact with Buddhism a few years ago, I read about the Dhamma, and then I read that there's no soul, which means, and then I thought, okay, soul, yeah. I heard about soul in this other religion. Soul means something like, there's this body and there's another body, so when this body dies, this other soul comes out. This some kind of thing. So I thought, that's so nonsensical. That's definitely wrong. Why? Because I am a scientist. I know biology. So biology means there's only this life, this body, there's no soul. So this is, by the way, all what I thought, okay? Now many things have changed, and many things don't matter to me anymore. All these kind of discussions don't matter to me anymore, actually. But I used to think soul is like something else in the body, and that thing never dies or goes out of the body. So that I thought that is definitely wrong, so the Buddha must be right. But if you ask me the question at that day, do you have desire? I would have said yes. And then, yeah, show me your desire. And then I would have said, yeah, it's somewhere in me. So see, I was a fanatic of soul. I was a soul fanatic. But if you ask me, do you believe in the soul? I said, no. Even sometimes people might think that they are a sotapanna just because they don't believe in a soul or something like that, right? I don't know. Because that is not the point. That's not the point at all. Soul means you feel that you are an angry person or that you are a desirous person, which means the desire, which you don't feel at this moment, is somewhere within you. Where are you? Where's this imaginary, where's this thing where the desire is in? I mean, wherever you, and as well, think about this question as well. See, haven't things happened to you in your lives? Sometimes good, sometimes bad. Right? Have happened. Sometimes bad things have happened. I can tell you things have happened to me, in air quotes to me. There was a day when a person I really loved broke up with me. Many years ago, 5 years, 6 years ago, I don't know. See, that was a very sad day for me at that day. That was a very sad day. So, concerning the very little amount, very little means I studied, and then after my degree, I started to listen to the Dhamma, and luckily, I avoided most part of things to come. Because I think most problems come after that. When we are young, yes, sometimes we burn our hands, but because we are young, we can always say, I have another try, I can try again. As well as, I have to be honest with you, something that I have not experienced so far is that I lost my son, my mother, my father. I didn't lose my wife. I never experienced any of these things, and I hope you didn't. But as we grow older, what starts to happen? I mean, when you are 20 years old, all your friends are alive, your mothers and fathers are alive, your grandmothers are alive. Then sometimes the grandmother dies. But it's your grandmother, right? You went there once a week, once every 2 weeks. So it's sad, but come on, it's not the end of the world. That's normally how it is. But when you grow older, there'll be a day when your mother will die. That's a very different thing. Because it's your mother. She did everything for you. She fed you. She did so much for you. See, if I wouldn't have the Dhamma, if I would not have had, she's still alive, but I'm saying, imagine that I would have gone on living another 20, 30 years without ever finding the Dhamma, and my mother dies then. I think that would be actually a really hard thing to swallow for me. Or, I don't know. See, I am talking about a very innocent thing. I was in love with a girl and she broke up with me. It sounds like a child is talking about some other child coming and taking its toy. Maybe for some of you, I don't know. It's not really important. But of course, these are the small wounds a teenager / young adult collects. Sometimes these wounds can also be the end of their lives, as in some people take their lives because of these things. Or they never recover from these wounds for the rest of their lives. Sometimes there are people who are not able to marry that person and they love this person so much and they maybe have to marry another person, or maybe this person dies. See, I don't know, I didn't talk about it the other week, right? I think it came to me within this week. I was thinking about the Titanic. I don't know whether you have seen, that doesn't matter. But see, in this movie, two people fall in love. And now the ship sinks. And Mr. What's his name? Jack. I feel Jack. Jack dies. And Rose survives. So I was thinking about this question. I can ask you the same question. So she fell in love, and then he died, and she survived. Think about the life she had, the life she actually had after that. I want to ask you, do you want to have that life? You are in love, but he died before you had any chance to spend time with this person. Do you want to have that life? No, you don't want to have that life. It's not a great life. We can say it's better to have an experience of love, however, than not having any experience of love. I'm not talking necessarily about a love between man and woman, but simply an experience where you feel that somebody really cares about you. Could be your parents, could be a stranger, could be a monk. It doesn't matter, but that's definitely worth having, I guess. Otherwise you're just a machine. But then again, I don't think that is a happy life. So why was that not a happy life? Because now, of course, she wanted to be with a person that wasn't there, of course. And of course, the memory of what happened in the past, which means this memory happened, and when that memory happened, what happened with her? A pain happened. So as you go through life, don't you feel like that? As you go through life, things have happened and made you unhappy. And now as you're here today, aren't you still carrying these wounds with you? Maybe not in the same extent that they were. Sometimes we say the wound closes to some extent. Not necessarily such kind of pains. I don't know what had been your pains. Sometimes it's just maybe somebody takes a pen from you and you were sad. I mean, a 7-year-old kid would probably tell this about her life. And this would be the pain that she carries. So that means somehow we carry these pains, big or small, I don't know. Where? Where do we carry them? People actually, the scientists call this thing trauma in some way. When it's big, we call it trauma. But of course, in this sense, we all have traumas. Scientists, but now the debate is there, where are the traumas? Where are these pains that you carry? There are only two possible answers. One is in this invisible, strange thing called soul, within you, basically. Now then, of course, the question is, where are you? Where are you? Then people will say, well, maybe you are in the soul or in the mind or whatever. Or, of course, now actually most scientists believe, I don't know, but I read some books a few years ago. Scientists believe traumas are actually in the body. So they believe the pains which you carry, they are in your physical body. So, in other words, mental pain is in physical body. Do you understand? Mental pain is in the physical body. See, this is a very good example of this craziness called jati. As I have told you in the recent few weeks, there is a disease that we all have in our minds. Actually, we can't say that disease is in our minds. This disease happens all the time with us. Because of ignorance and attachment, there's an illusion which is created. And this illusion is called jati. So jati is not that you are alive, that you are born. That's not jati, what I'm talking about. This is what people think jati is. Jati is more than that. Jati is a disease in our mind that happens in this moment because of ignorance and attachment, and is responsible for us, or the mind, not actually us, but the mind feeling an illusion. This illusion means the feeling of, it shows itself in many ways, but one of the ways is feeling value in external things. But we are going to, today also we are going to learn more that it's also simply, as I gave you this example before, when you go to the super electronics store and you buy a CD, right? So when people stand in front of the CDs, what are they discussing about? They are discussing about which of these CDs sounds better. isn't it? So that means this is the CD. Maybe this is let's take a band, I don't know, Beatles, it doesn't matter, something. This is a very good CD. Why? It sounds very good. But the other CD doesn't sound so good. So in other words, what they feel, so don't you feel like that? Don't you have also CDs in your maybe head, I don't know, or cassettes or something, or even when you watch your phone and you play kind of some kind of song, don't you feel that the song is on your phone? So you're putting a song on your phone and now you can hear it. So the song comes from the phone. That's how we feel. It is a full-on illusion because there is no music on a CD. You can't store music on a CD. Because a CD, if you look closely with a telescope, with a microscope, will you find music on there? You find only electrons and protons on there. Music is not in the CD, but what happens is causes come together and music manifests. So I'll give you another second example, a very simple example. What is this? A hand. What's this? A hand. So, what's the sound of the hand? How does this hand sound? Can you say that? Well, we can't say that because it's a hand. It doesn't have a sound. So this clap. Was that in the hand? No. So it's created when these causes come together. So where was that clap stored? Show me the storage. So the clap that I'm going to do in 2 seconds, okay? In 10 seconds I'm going to clap. Show me the storage of the clap in this moment. Where is it stored? Is it stored in this hand or stored in this hand? So you can't show me a storage because effects don't have a storage. When you make a fire, where's the fire stored? You don't store a fire, you store only gas. So fire is how you perceive when gas, oxygen and heat come together. When these three causes come together, you perceive their togetherness as fire. That means fire doesn't come from the gas. Otherwise you would be able to make a fire without any heat and without any... What's the other cause? Oxygen. So then in the same way, where is your desire then? Because desire is also an effect when causes come together. So which means right now in this moment, you are nothing more than an experience that happens in this moment because of some causes which are there. For example, right now seeing happens. Seeing happens because of the light that is there, as well as brain and other things. So we don't have to worry about this. But the desire for food, let's say the desire for food, is it somewhere right now? It's not somewhere right now. But when seeing food happens, so when there's a seeing of food, or better to say, not necessarily, it could be when there's a seeing of food or thinking about food, or a thought about food, so it could be seeing or thinking. In that kind of thought, let's say if I say the word fried rice, so now I have given you only a word, but in your mind, maybe a thought of fried rice has been created. Actually, it's not something you do, right? It happens when the causes come together. So you can't stop that from happening. The thought is created. It could be a picture, a mental picture. That's a chitta. But will all of you feel desire now? So can I ignite desire within you by saying fried rice? No. Sometimes there will be some among you who don't like fried rice. Isn't it? Not everyone likes fried rice. Some people don't like it. That means in that mind there's no view that fried rice is something pleasurable. That mind doesn't have the idea that fried rice is something good or that gives me happiness. Some people don't like, I don't know, fried rice is usually many people like that, not because it's actually something pleasurable, but that's because all of the people have that view. But there are always people who don't have that view. But for example with fish, there are people who really don't like fish, and some people really like it. So now I say, think about a really fried fish, I don't know, Maldives, and dry fish, I don't know. See, when I say the word, in some people, immediately desire will be sparked, in others it won't. Why does it happen? It's because when this thought is created, and if there's this view, that it's something pleasurable, something that has happiness, something that tastes good, when these causes come together, just like the clap, the wanting starts for that, the desire starts. So it means it's not something you carry anywhere. In this moment it's not there. It happens in this way. And also, what else can we say? When this chitta passes away, what happens with that desire? It will die as well. Actually, when this chitta passes away, the whole world will die. All the emotions will die. All the pains will die. All the happiness you have accumulated over this chitta, which is not existing, but imagine you have acquired any happiness in this chitta. When this chitta passes away, what will happen to the happiness? It will die. If that is so, can you accumulate happiness? Is happiness something you can accumulate? Because, for example, people believe that you should see 200 countries, and you must see all the countries in the world, or this week we're going there, next week we're going there, so I can take some happiness from here, then I can take some happiness from there. Can you do that? No, actually, because even the happiness you experienced this morning is no longer exists. Where's the clap which I have clapped 10 minutes ago? Can you bring it back? No, what can happen is you can remember it, but that memory is also happening right now. And when you remember it, you might feel happy about it. Is that the happiness you experienced that time? When I tell you, think about a good thing that happened. For example, last time you had your favorite dish. Are you experiencing the happiness of that time now? Because then it should have been stored somewhere in your soul and you can replay it. But you need to understand, actually what happened is, in this moment, again, vexation is being released. Right? Vexation is released means, because this mind is constantly wanting, so this wanting is there, because of this defilement process. When this wanting for things which we believe have happiness, when this gets connect with the corresponding experience, so the reason why right now you feel happy about the memory is because there's a wanting for that memory, or there's a wanting for this food in this moment. So it's really not happiness, it's just a fallacy. Not anything you can accumulate. Okay. Actually, I wanted to explain you a very simple way, in a simple, very simple way, the concept of anicca. But I want to explain it to you in a way where you understand the significance of it. So, let me think about how to do that. So in our lives, we have preferences. An arahant can be okay with anything in this world because he doesn't have any preferences. There's nothing better than what he has, right? So the Buddha, for example, he can live in the present moment. How is it possible to live in the present moment and be happy with it? Only if there's no better moment. What if there's a better moment than the present moment? As in, what if there's something else? Let's say you're watching you're watching TV, or you're listening to the radio. See, when the moment that we believe that there's a better song on another channel, I could see something better than what I'm seeing. Can you still enjoy your experience which you have at this moment? You can't. So when preferences are born, suffering starts. So for example, you ask your partner to go to the supermarket and buy something to eat. And instead of chicken, he buys dark. I'm trying to make it a simple way. Yeah, instead of chicken, he buys cheese. No, sorry, not cheese, but chickpeas. Okay? But you like chicken more than chickpeas. So then, you'll be disappointed. So, of course, there is a way of suffering, but we understand that even when you have the thing you like most, there's also suffering there, because if there's something else which is worse than what you have right now, what can always happen? See, do you feel that spending time with people are all people are the same? Do you feel like that? Whether you're spending time with this person or this person, it doesn't matter. No, right? There are people that we like to spend more to spend time with than others. So typically our family, we like to spend time with them. But if I change your family member with some random person on the street, that would typically be able to take your happiness away. Why? Because these are not the same things, as in the value they possess as well as value they possess, and they are just different. Don't you agree? For a man who's married to a woman, what if I take the woman away and give him a man? He would protest. Right? Most of them would protest, because man and woman is not the same. It's very different. Okay, so you agree with me that we see the world through a lens where things are very different. At least, if you can feel, at least when you see a woman and man and woman is not the same. We have preferences in this way as well as chicken and chickpeas. There are some foods you like to eat more than others. So these preferences are born because we feel that this world has very unique, inherently different things. So man exists in this world and women exist in this world. But man and women are very different. Don't you agree? That's what we feel. How do you know that you feel like this? Well, if it matters to you which one of them you have next to you, then you know that you don't feel them the same. For an arahant, it doesn't matter. Right? Nothing matters to an arahant in that sense. It's not that he doesn't care, he cares. He cares about how he looks like. Even when Sariputta Maharatana had his robe touching the ground and a small child saw that, he corrected that because he cared so much, even if whether a small part of his robe is on the floor. Because why? Because it will give a bad impression to others. Because it will make people... even I was thinking it yesterday, I had to give... somebody wanted to wash my robe. If I take my robe, it's actually not my robe, it's the robe I'm using, it belongs to the Buddha. If I take it with one hand and give it like this, is that not an insult to the robe? It is. If I do that with this robe, what am I showing to the world? Well, I'm giving bad views to them, to the people. Because people will not... Because there are people who are not arahants, for whom it is good to feel a value in a robe, because by feeling a value in a robe, you will respect the robe, which earns you merits, so that you can become an arahant someday by earning merits and realizing the Dhamma, where you will ultimately realize that actually the robe is not special at all. But there's an absolute reality and there's a conventional reality. In the conventional reality, we have to show respect because we need to earn merits, but we need to understand this is a convention. The absolute reality is that there's nothing special whatsoever. Everything is the same. And that's why we can become an arahant. Because if you are inherently not an arahant, say if you are inherently defiled, then I'm sorry, but you can never become anything else than that. But the fact that you can become something else means you are not what you are. This is just the arrangement of the causes in this moment. So I'm going to prove this with a simple, I want to convince you of this fact that everything in this world is the same. But you need to understand this in a way smartly. No, and especially the other thing is, you should not act like that. Don't act like what I'm trying to explain here. Which means, if you act the absolute reality in conventional reality, you're going to create your life completely destroyed. That means you will walk to the street naked, you will buy only water and no more food because it doesn't matter, food and water is the same. So then, in ultimate reality, yes, you will realize that there is no real difference between any of these things. It's just a process of energy, but conventionally, we don't live like that. The Buddha didn't do that, and he never asked anyone to do that. But the realization is what will free you from suffering. But living we should do according to convention, right? So that is very important.
But if you are arahant, can you live conventionally?
You can, because you will understand the convention as long as you have a mind. You will be able to understand the convention, and as much as you have been learning the rules of society, you will adhere to the rules. But you won't feel any real difference between anything. So you wouldn't feel attraction to a woman more than a man because you understand there's no woman or man in this world. These are feelings we feel. So there's a way our mind perceives the reality, and there's a way reality is. These things are not the same. But when you don't know that, you think that what you perceive is what the reality is, and then you're trapped. So to understand the difference between what you perceive and what the world is like, you need to understand the Dhamma. Then you will realize there's no such thing called a woman in this world, or there's no such thing called a man, or chickpeas and chicken is the same. So let me prove this to you in a very simple example, and I call this the driving the car test. Driving the car test. I'll take a very simple example. Imagine you are coming to visit me in my house, and after you visited me, as a gift, I give you a farewell gift, and now you can to take home. Okay? So the gift I'm going to give you is this triangle. This is my gift to you. I gave you a triangle. So now you can take this triangle into your car. You can put it next to your seat. So you're on the driving seat. You put it on the seat next to you and drive home. So while you're driving home, so you need to pay attention to the full story. This is not very complicated. Just a few things, but to get to what I'm trying to say. So I gave you what? A triangle, and you take it to your car. So what is the triangle? This triangle. Okay? You take it to your car, and the windows are closed. So why do I say that the windows are closed? Because while you're driving home, nothing comes into the car. And nothing leaves the car because the windows are closed. Makes sense, right? But when you, I think I gave a similar example in the past, so that's why this is how my train of thought developed. To make you understand this point as simple as I can. When you come to your house, to your home, you want to take the triangle and go into your house. But when you look next to you on the next seat, you find that there's only one pen left. Sorry, that is wrong to say. It is wrong to say, so that comes later. You find that there is a pen. And then you look, that you see there's another pen on the ground in front of the seat. There's another pen. And you find there's even a third pen between the seats. So so it's kind of a surprise because you see only 3 pens. One is on the seat, one is before the seat, and one is in the middle. So you look closely anywhere, but wherever you look within the car, nowhere is there a triangle. Okay? So let's do a quick checks and balances in the situation. What came into the car? You. And triangle. So this means triangle.
Could you not say instead of triangle 3 pens here?
You're too smart. Wait. We're coming to this later. Good question, yes. A triangle came into the car. And what came out? So nothing came in, nothing came out. Right? And then what is there when you go out, when you want to go out? So you are still there. And 3 pens are there, right? You find 3 pens. So how many things are here? At the beginning. How many things are there at the end? 4. But nothing came in, nothing came out. So which means something was created out of nothing. Can that ever happen? Can you create something out of nothing? Can a thing be created out of nothing? It can't be. Can you create energy out of nothing? No, you can't do that. It's impossible. So there's a logical flaw here, as well as pen, you need to understand, pen and triangle are very different things. Don't you agree? A pen and a triangle is very different. Just as much as a man and a woman is very different, and just as much as chicken and chickpeas are different. These are not the same, these are different things. That's how we feel. So if they are very different, if this is one and this is another, now of course, how can there be pens and there be a triangle? Because the triangle must have gone somewhere and the pens must have come somewhere. So, and this doesn't make sense. So we must conclude there's something wrong in here. So either the windows had a leak or we are understanding the problem in the wrong way. Okay, then maybe yes, maybe the problem is that actually I didn't give you a triangle. So we need to understand this question, what did I really give you? Why do I say this? Because imagine you're going to your room, let's say you bought a dog, okay? And this is your small puppy, a dog puppy. And it's in your room, in somewhere in your house, in your room. And then you go in, you put the dog inside, and then you go to the supermarket, and when you come back, you open the door, and there's a cat inside. What do you feel now? Are you surprised or not? You are very surprised. So what is the next question you're going to ask? Who brought this cat how did this cat come in here and where did that dog come in here? Or are you going to say, oh yeah, that's just, let me go and do the cooking? You don't do that because you can't logically explain how you can put a dog into your room and later there's a cat inside. Because can a dog become a cat? No. But do you believe me, an Arahant would not be surprised, even when that happens. As unlikely as it is, conventionally speaking, but he would not be surprised. As in, he might even ask the same questions as us, but he would not he doesn't feel that dogs and cats are different things. What I mean is, he doesn't feel that cat exists and dog exists as an entity. He realizes these are processes, or these are nature. Right? So let's come back to this example. So in the same way you should understand this. Pens and triangle, but that's different things. So good, let's go on and continue. And this is a very subtle concept. It sounds like I'm talking to you a children's story, but I mean, and the most difficult thing is that the more knowledge we have, the harder it is to comprehend this, because we have pseudo explanations. We have explanations which sort of explain, but they don't really explain. So that's the additional thing. That's why this concept can be explained to children. 7-year-old children in the Buddha's time, they can understand this and they become arahants. And they fully realize only this. But knowledge sort of makes it harder. Actually, it's not true. It just depends on merits. But merits we need a lot. So let's continue. So I have not given you a triangle. We must conclude this because otherwise this logic should be somehow work. So okay, then let me correct my statement and tell you, I gave you actually not, how many things did I give you? Did I give you one thing? If I gave you the one thing should be what? Triangle, right? So I didn't give you one thing. Did I give you 4 things? 4 things. I gave you 4 things, okay? I gave you 3 pens. So I'm going to correct this. I gave you 3 pens and a triangle, right? Because if I ask you what is this, what do you say? Triangle. Somewhere there must be a triangle in here. You wouldn't, if I say, are these only pens? You will say, no, there's something more. So there must be a triangle somewhere here and there must be pens here as well. Okay. So let's look at it from this point of view. 3 pens and a triangle. So how many things came in? 5. But, however, at the end of the day, when you drive your car and you're braking, there's a traffic light, you're braking, sometimes this pen will roll to the front. At the end of driving your car, the windows were closed. You find this. How many things are there in your car? So how many things were actually in your car now? 5 or 4? Seems like while you're driving, something evaporated into air. Meaning its energy was destroyed into nothingness. That can't happen. Similarly, 1. So how many things are here? 1. So I add 1 more. So what is 1 plus 1? 2. So these are two things. So if I add another 1, what is 2 plus 1? 4, right? 4. No, 3. So 3 pens, 3 things are there. So therefore, now, then we must understand what is this triangle now. The triangle, so actually the reality is I never gave you a triangle. I gave you 3 pens. So now the logic makes sense. In and out is the same. Nothing came in, nothing came out. But what about the triangle? And this is where you need to understand the way our mind works is through aggregation. Aggregation means when these pens, see, depending on their arrangement, in Sinhala we say sakasma, that emerging, resulting lakshana or characteristic changes. So there's an emergent lakshana characteristic which emerges from the way that causes arrange themselves, right? So see, now we say it's an L. Not because there is an L here, this is the emerging characteristic of the way the causes are arranged. Not an L that's here. So our mind works through aggregation. So that means when these 3 pens arrange themselves in a certain way, when they are arranged in a certain way, the way the perception process works is that a triangle is being perceived. There's a perception of a triangle in this moment, which is created in our minds, and with the help of these causes here. But the triangle is a perception or a feeling created in your mind at this moment. That is what we call skandha yantra, or aggregation process. The Buddha gave a very simple word, gave a simple description of this, which we are going to go in more detail in the future, which is called Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, Vijnana. And he also gave them usually as Rupa, Skandha, Vedana, Skandha, Sanya, Skandha, Sankhara, Skandha, and Vijnana, Skandha. Skandha means aggregation, collection. Not one, but a collection of things. Right? So it is by aggregating things together that this feeling is created. And it is also always what we have in the outside world are also always kaya. Kaya means collections, aggregations. Now, that's what actually happens. So I gave you, in reality I gave you 3 pens, but the pen was something you felt when these causes were arranged in a certain way. Now, because of ignorance is this belief that actually fixed units, unique units, exist in the outside world. So in other words, because of ignorance, our mind always believes, has started to be convinced, because it doesn't understand that there is such a thing called the aggregation process. Ignorance doesn't know that. It believes that actually there are things in this world, entities, like this triangle actually exists here. So, because of this ignorance, it leads this mind to actually feel that no, this is not a feeling only, this is not only an aggregation in the mind, this is not only a perception, there is actually a unique thing in outside world. this conviction, this feeling that actually there's an existing triangle here. I mean, this is what you and me feel. Why? Because you feel preferences, right? So don't you feel that when you see chicken in your fridge, don't you feel that chicken is in your fridge? Or what if I told you that whenever you looked into your fridge, there was never any chicken in your fridge? What was there is some carbohydrates and proteins and fats, but the chicken was only your own mind. You wouldn't agree with me. See, the fact that you wouldn't agree with me shows that your belief about what has happened is not that what I'm telling you, which means because ignorance is a belief. So the belief that you saw actually a chicken in your fridge, that is what we call ignorance. But actually you haven't had a chicken in your fridge. See, let's say there's a big let's say when I was working in the kitchen I was working for a hospital in Germany when I was a teenager, and there's a big freezer, not a freezer that you can open, actually it's a freezer room. Sometimes and in this freezer room, let's say, so we're going to finish in a few minutes, but just to explain you this concept, just to conclude and give you this example. See, in this freezer room, we also stored a lot of food. So, example, chicken also. So there was a freezer room where they put chicken in. Now, can't I take let's say a scientist with some laboratory equipment, and I put him into the room and the chicken. So what is in the room? Well, a lot of chicken and a scientist with some kind of a measurement, with kind of a tool. And then after a few hours, I open the freezer and hope the scientist is still alive. But there's no chicken anymore, but there's chickpeas there now. I mean, don't you think that a scientist can turn chicken into chickpeas by doing some sort of chemical treatment? It can be done, right? Because when how much chicken have you eaten in your lives? You have, right? You have. So what you put into your mouth was chicken. Have you ever seen chicken leaving your body, the other end? No, right? Chicken never left your body, but you put a lot of chicken into your body. So then it must still be there somewhere in your body, maybe in your legs or in your stomach. It must be accumulating somewhere, the chicken. For every chicken you ate, you should have a chicken somewhere in your body. So if I would cut your body open, would I find chicken? No. Then wait. So let's apply this car test. So what happened here? But see, suddenly sometimes you have hair growing. So you never ate hair, right? You never ate hair, but hair just comes to be there. So what has really happened? The only logical explanation is hair is actually not one. This is just proteins, a lot of proteins. And triangle is not one. So when I write pen plus pen plus pen, you should understand it doesn't mean that 3 pens are a triangle, right? So these are just 3 pens. What I mean is 3 pens, when arranged in a certain way, are being perceived as a triangle. That is a very different thing. So 3 pens are not a triangle, of course, I understand that, but when they come together in a certain way, we perceive a triangle. So in the same way, see, if I can put a scientist and chicken into the freezer, and after a few hours and nothing leaves, nothing comes in, I find only carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, then don't I have to conclude that chicken is actually nothing more than these three? So you have never put chicken into your freezer, only these three. But how do you and me feel? Normally we feel, I have put the chicken that is made out of carbohydrates into the freezer. I didn't, so this is the difference. Is it a chicken made out of carbohydrates, or is it carbohydrates in the form of chicken? Which means what I really have is only carbohydrates, not chicken. It just, you perceive it as a chicken. See, because our mind is a magician. Vijnana is a Maya, or something like that, like a wizard. It creates a nice mirage, creates a nice magic show. Vijnana is a magician. That's what the Buddha always said. So now you understand why. It makes you feel that you have something special in front of you, but you have nothing special in front of you. See, in the same way, if chicken is only this, can't I use these to make chickpeas as well? Chocolate? How about your body? Only male body or male body only, right? Female body, no. See, I can use these to make a male body. I don't need to put anything male into the male body. I don't need to put anything female into the female body. So these are all the same. There's absolutely no different. I have in front of me a lot of carbohydrates, which means a lot of collections. I mean, a lot of energy collections. See, the thing now, why is this important? Because first of all, you understand there's no difference. There's no chicken in the chicken. Then your desire for chicken can no longer exist because there's no chicken, only carbohydrates. But you never wanted carbohydrates. Otherwise, your fridge would look like the fridge of an arahant. There will be only the things that your body needs, because your body wants only carbohydrates. But why do we need to have? Why does it matter whether it's chickpeas or chicken? To the body, it doesn't matter. Because your enzymes they never digest chicken, they only know carbohydrates and liquid. So, but our fridge doesn't look like that, because we want uniqueness. Right? Likewise, and also, if what I gave you was 3 pence, can we say that the triangle that I gave you was destroyed and died while you were driving? The triangle fell into pieces? I never gave you a triangle. So then how can we say a triangle fell into pieces? All that really happened was I gave you 3 pence, and these 3 pence were perceived as a triangle as they were arranged in a certain way because of the forces at that moment. But when the forces change, their arrangement also will be a different one. Which means when the pens are arranged in a different way, so all that happened is that the pens arranged differently, or they changed their arrangements. Nothing more happened. You only had 3 pens, and you had it at the beginning and at the end. Only thing happened is their arrangement changed. So that means nothing happened, actually. Nothing special happened. Nothing died. This world is only one thing that happens, which is energy packets which which continuously change, aggregate in different ways based on the forces at play. So that is anicca and dukkha and anatta. That is anicca and dukkha. So energy, which means causes, which aggregate due to some forces to manifest lakshana, which is characteristics, that is dukkha. Dukkha means there are only energy collections in this world. Means pens. If you go and if you investigate, is this a pen, you will realize, of course, this is also dukkha, which means a collection. So then you will realize everything is just causes. Then you will come to the conclusion, then there is no you, there's no me, there's no humans or dogs or cats, women or men or chicken or chocolates. Everything is just an effect of causes in that moment. And then you will realize that there was never a me, but the energy process, mind and body happened. Mind and body are kaya, collections, process. So then there's nothing special in this world and there's nothing to die, but only the process that happens. So and that's it. But now the thing is, whenever in every chitta in which jati happens, this reality is concealed to us. We are not able to realize. We are not able to realize, nor to feel. So the first thing that has to happen is you have to understand this concept clearly, to be convinced that actually this is how it is. Actually, the world is anicca, dukkha, and anatta. If you can clearly convince your mind, and for this you need a lot of merits to really understand this concept clearly, then you will experience, when that understanding clearly comes in, so it might have happened in the sermon, I don't know, you will be able to realize, your mind will for the very, very first time see the reality as it really is, which means this process of jati for one moment will stop happening, or it will be ceased. And then you will experience the real mind without suffering and sense of self and feeling of fixedness. And then what has to happen is you have to practice this understanding with merits and contemplation. Then you can do what we call as manasikara or kusala until one day you become an arahant. This is how it works. So we are doing these sermons for you to understand gradually this concept and be able to apply this. And then what will happen is your preferences will reduce and go away, which doesn't mean that you have to change anything in your lives, but you will just stop suffering. So you always have to realize, live by the convention, so that it has to happen, because we feel convention is reality, that means the world can make us suffer very easily. At least you have this feeling that you are an entity, you are going to die. But actually, if you are an entity, how can you die? An entity cannot die. So an entity is one. Something that is one can't be split up, can't be destroyed. But we feel the mixture of both. An entity, but it can die. I'm going to explain these illogicalities in the future as well. But so it is really not difficult to understand. You don't have to be a scientist for this, or actually that does not really help. Sometimes it can be worse. As I said, knowledge can sometimes be the biggest barrier to wisdom, because what we need to develop here is wisdom. Wisdom develops with merits and with kindness that you live and that you cultivate towards other people, and by realizing the value of Nibbana and by doing merits in the hope of cultivating what we call as Arya Maitreya. So this is not just loving kindness, may all be happy, may all be well. It's the strong wish, may all beings be freed from this suffering of samsara. That is loving kindness. That is not something you can have in a worldly sense. You must realize more and more the suffering of samsara and what samsara really means. It has also many different meanings, deep meanings. We want to talk about this more. So all I can say is, whatever you understand today, practice it as much as you can. And that will help you to come back here, and not necessarily here. When you do merits, you will go to the place where you'll get the reward for the merits. Maybe you'll get a better teacher, but that will need you merits. However, do as much merit as you can, then they will be your best insurance, or they will guide you. And then always do what you can do, best of your understanding will grow. But try to be the best person you can be to others as much as you can, and practice these things. And then I hope you get the right guidance. Okay. So, finally, we wanted to show you, I think it's the impact of, one man. That man is the Buddha, who, without him, nothing would happen today. Even today, 2,500 years after his passing away, Parinibbana, still the sheer extent of his loving kindness and compassion he had for all sentient beings is what I think has crafted the culture of this country, and what is the reason why we can meet here today. And it is responsible for all the things that happen in our monastery since 10 years, as well as now that I am also much involved in talking with people in Germany who start to listen to the teachings, sermons of my teachers as well. And I see a huge development there as well. So many people who are so genuinely interested in goodness, especially young people who, like we all did, just spending time with listening to music and going after, going out in the evenings and the nights and the weekends, and just trying to enjoy our lives the way we thought was enjoyable. But I see huge development, and this is far away from where the source happens. So today's source for us is our teachers and our monastery. But I see how the ripples of waves of this carry all over the world, even to Germany, where so many people who came to our monastery had been so deeply inspired by that experience that they are so much wholeheartedly engaged in giving loving kindness and goodness to the surrounding, to their parents. You can't find a German person worshipping their parents. I think that hasn't happened the last 50 years. It has happened maybe recently, but only because somebody came to Sri Lanka and learned these things, I think. And that's not easy. You can't change a German person that easily. You have to give him really good arguments, and especially logic. You can't sell him a religion. No one can sell me a religion I will never accept. Never. Unless somebody drugs me. But these are not a religion. This is logical. So in the same way, in our monastery we are learning many languages because we are not here to promote a religion at all. So we don't have any fear to even approach people of very different religions and to explain these things in their own words, through words that are written in their own sacred text. It could be the Quran or the Bible. See, Jesus talked about the eternal life. Can't you see the eternal life? I can see it because there is eternal life. Because the causes, the pens, pens is only, in this example I'm talking about pens, but pens are also manifestations. But the concept shows you that actually reality is timeless and death doesn't happen, so it's eternal. There's not a thing that is eternal, so it's not like you will exist somewhere forever. That is nonsense, because you are not even there right now, so you're not, that also you cannot achieve. But eternal life is a reality, and nature, the process of nature is a reality. So I can understand that. So I mean, and this can be proven. You can prove, even with pens you can prove. But you need to explain really well. And so anyways, we don't want to convert anyone, just want to explain people the truth in their own words. So for that we are learning many languages. And in January we had a language event where we opened 25 YouTube channels. So we just wanted to, this is just to have an idea what's going on in our monastery. And actually the thing is, with how much dedication and passion, I would say, in the right way. The Mahasangha at the end of the day, we are using, Mahasangha is doing efforts to help minds all over the world, because minds are what suffer because of jati. So it's not just Buddhists, it's all kind of human beings as well as beyond, to fulfill the mission of the Buddha. So when you watch this video, just try to think about the dedication and hard work and that goes in with this intention of freeing all beings from suffering. So that is what the Sangha, Mahasangha quality is, right? So if you can see that quality and you can rejoice in this quality, and actually you're part of it as well. By coming in here, by offering, by listening to the Dhamma, by practicing the Dhamma, you become part of the Mahasangha, because Sangha is always upasaka, upasika, bhikkhu, bhikkhuni, upasaka, upasika. So that means you can see this and rejoice, and you can also make a wish that may, through the efforts of all the people involved, including all of us, we be able to help many, many people all over the world achieve unconditional happiness. Whether you call it Nibbana or whether you call it inner peace of mind, I don't know, it doesn't matter to me. Names are just names. But happiness is something we all want to be, and we deserve to be happy. And a Muslim, a Christian, a man, a woman, a girl, a boy are all minds at the end of the day. It means this is their solution. Right? So, with that wish in your mind and this adhisthana, you can rejoice, and that will earn you merits, and this will also help bless the world. And this is the practice of Arya Maitri, actually. Okay, this is not a big long video, just a few minutes. We'll have our Buddha Puja now.